Good morning, everyone. We are pleased to have you with us today for this webinar on Mexico, reliable trading partner for New York exporters. I'm your moderator, Jenny Alton from the New York Small Business Development Center Central Office. This webinar is hosted by the International Trade Department of the New York Small Business Development Center. The NYSBDC is a network of 20 campus-based centers and many more outreach offices located across New York State, along with a central office based in Albany. The NYSBDC is a U.S. Small Business Administration resource partner. Our free advising, education, research, and advocacy services are made possible by funding from the SBA, New York State, and our host campuses. We have a wonderful lineup of presenters for you today, including our own Dr. Mercedes Sanchez-Moore, who will address you here in just a moment. We have Catherine Bamberger, Industry Development Representative with Global New York. And, of course, our main presenter for the day, Efren Flores, New York Trade Representative with Global New York in Mexico. So we are recording today, and we will share a copy or a link to that recording along with a copy of the slides through a follow-up email that will come to you in the next few days. Attendees are muted and will not be on camera. Your chats will only be visible to me and our presenters today, and I will open the chat in just a moment. If you have questions during the presentation, please don't hesitate to type them in the Q&A box as they come up. You can open Zoom's Q&A box from the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. We will address questions in a Q&A session after the presentation material today. And so with that, I will now turn the time over to Dr. Sanchez-Moore.
Thank you, Jenny. Good morning, everyone. As Jenny mentioned, I am the Director of the International Trade New York Small Business Development Center. The New York SBDC is a partnership of the U.S. Business Administration, SUNY, the City University of New York, New York State, higher education institutions, and the private sector. The SBDC provides one-to-one business advisement, training, and research in support of entrepreneurship and economic development in the state of New York. The International Trade Initiative is a special program within the New York SBDC network, which is housed and part of the SUNY network of 20 regional centers and 72 outreach and satellite offices. 98% of the population in the state of New York is within 30 minutes of an SBDC service location. The New York SBDC International Trade Initiative supports SBDC clients statewide with expertise and experience on international trade and trade compliance. We also provide SBDC staff with professional development, increasing trade advising capabilities statewide. All of our services are free, customized, and 100% confidential. We help small and medium-sized companies become globally competitive by providing export development and import operations assistance through one-to-one trade consulting, market research, innovative training, and links to additional export resources provided by our partners, Global New York, the U.S. Commercial Service of the Department of Commerce, the Small Business Administration, Exim Bank, and other public and private organizations like Food Export Northeast, and any other agency operating in the state of New York. The New York SBDC can help your business become a successful competitor in foreign markets by helping you plan and implement your export strategy. Our international business consultants are available to assist retailers, manufacturers, high technology, and even service companies with export planning and other areas, including export readiness reviews, export business plans, targeting international markets, selecting sales and distribution channels, legal considerations and licensing, logistic procedures and documentation, market research and trade statistics, and international financing options. If you're successfully operating a business in the United States, you owe to yourself to consider exporting. Many small businesses have products and services with international market appeal, but are not certain on how to proceed. The New York SBDC is here to help. We invite you to contact one of our 20 centers and schedule a no-cost session with a New York SBDC certified global business professional and realize your exporting potential today. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Catherine Bamberger. As Jenny mentioned, she's an international industry development representative for the Global New York Division at Empire State Development for over 10 years. She is currently representing the companies in the northeastern regions through her Troy office. She is also a statewide resource for food and beverage exports, honoring her previous experience at the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets. She has a bachelor's degree from St. Lawrence University in Government and Spanish and an MBA from Sage Graduate School. Please go ahead, Catherine. You're muted,
We
my
can't
dear.
hear you.
Sorry about that. Too many screens open. Thank you again, Mercedes. It's always a pleasure to be here. And thank you again for hosting yet another export webinar and for allowing us to share our information along with yours and our other partners. It's always a pleasure. And this morning, I just want to tell you very quickly, tell you all about some of the things that Global New York and Empire State Development have to offer you also in support of your efforts in growing your business in international markets. Our primary mission at Empire State Development is to increase the number of jobs available in New York for New Yorkers. And our group primarily focuses on, again, growing the customer base outside of the United States, as well as attracting businesses from around the world to set up location here within the state. We have a team based in New York City and in regional offices around the state. You can see that we have a fairly small but mighty group. And my colleagues in the Mid-Hudson region, Long Island, New York City, Finger Lakes, and Western New York are on sort of the middle and right-hand columns. And all of our New York City-based colleagues are in the left-hand column, and we will be sharing this information with you afterward, and it's also available on our website. So when you are ready to engage our team in your planning processes or to access some of our grant programs, these are the folks that you'll be working with. So as Mercedes mentioned, we're a very well-connected, interconnected group of partners, both at the state, federal, and local level. I do want to draw your attention in particular to the District Export Council, who will be sponsoring a series of export webinars and an export boot camp format monthly starting this fall. There's a small fee of $95, and we'll be sharing information with you as well on how to join that group starting in September. So the reason that we do this kind of work is that over 95% of the world's population and 75% of the world purchasing power resides outside of the United States. Right now, our economy is very strong, but as that waxes and wanes, as tends to happen, having a global marketplace for your products can help weather the different cycles and sort of even out your sales opportunities. Trade represented 57% of the world's $100 trillion economy in 2022, and exporting companies grow sales at 24%, experience greater job creation and employee earnings compared to non-exporters. They tend to be more versatile, they tend to be more innovative, and when that not only helps the business and help them become an employer of choice, but it also helps them create new and differentiated products for the domestic market as well. However, fewer than 1% of small businesses export their products and services, and you might think that they are all the super large multinational companies and the brands that we're all familiar with, but in actuality, many of the exporters are in fact small businesses, and that's who we work with. New York State, compared to other states, we're the fourth largest exporter, and a lot of that is based on the commodities that have high value, not necessarily volume, but the higher value products such as arts and antiquities, precious stones for the jewelry industry, industrial machinery, optics and photonics, medical surgical instruments. So some of our biggest brands, such as General Electric and IBM, legacy companies that were based here in New York, and a lot of their legacy businesses that have spun off from that still continue to export products. Importing and exporting countries, partners tend to be similar. Of course, our nearest neighbors in Canada and Mexico are often our best trading partners, as well as a lot of the English-speaking countries, such as the United Kingdom and other countries in Europe and Asia that have very robust economies. For us, we have representatives that are contracted around the world to help you access that market, learn a little bit more about that market, and then get some information specific to not only your industry sector, but also for your company. Efren is one of those. He is contracted through the Council of Great Lakes Governors. At the moment, we are between contracts, but we're excited to renew some of these and some new offices in the near future. Our three main programs is Export Marketing Assistance Service, known as EMAS, and we're all about acronyms in the government, and so this is just a whole section of more of them. But that market research information and partner search information that I referenced is what we refer to when we talk about this particular service. Where we do not have contracted representative, we partner with our colleagues at the U.S. Department of Commerce Commercial Service, who has staff deployed in embassies throughout the world. We also have the STEP grant, or the State Trade Expansion Program. That's an annually competitive grant that we apply for and then distribute to companies in New York. And our new program year will begin in October, assuming that we're successful in our current grant application. And then the Global New York Fund Program, which is a state-funded program. The STEP program is actually funded through the Small Business Administration, another one of our federal partners. So again, the Export Marketing Assistance Service Program is currently offered at no charge to companies in New York, as long as they meet the criteria that they are at least producing their product in New York. They have 500 and fewer employees and have been in business for at least a year. And the idea, again, is that we are using all of these programs in tandem to try to make sure that when companies are trying to expand their market internationally, that they have not only the resource information, but then also financial resources to attempt some of the activities that will help enhance their business. So companies can apply for multiple discrete activities up to $10,000 in reimbursement. Our current program, Step 11, reimburses at 60% of total eligible costs. And the eligibility for this program is slightly different in that we ask that we require that the company be headquartered in New York, but that the product creation can be in other areas as long as it's within the United States. The kinds of activities that you can receive reimbursement for include traveling to follow up on an export marketing assistance service program. If you identify a partner that you would like to contract with to import your products, you can go and meet them and interview them in person, check out their operations, and we will help support the travel costs on that. If you'd like your staff to learn more about the business of exporting and how to do documentation or look at any of the different components of exporting, those training workshops are also reimbursable. Trade shows that are held not only internationally, but also domestically and have an international audience are also eligible for reimbursement, as well as consultancy services, such as how to get your export compliance manuals in order, developing marketing plans, that sort of thing. Finally, we also will reimburse in part for the Exim Bank export insurance premium reimbursement, which will guarantee your receivables for international sales up to 95% for pennies on the dollar. The Global New York Fund helps companies, specifically companies that are manufacturing or creating value of their products within the state of New York, and it is a state-funded program. A lot of similarities in terms of the eligible companies. This one you can combine multiple activities, and the grants are reimbursed at 50% and range from $5,000 to $25,000 in reimbursement for projects up to $50,000. And again, this is multiple activities, so it could be a trade show, plus travel, plus website development, et cetera. The difference with this particular fund is that it's also is available for nonprofit organizations that help support companies in exporting. So that might be a chamber of commerce, an industrial development agency, a trade organization, or any other chambers of commerce that are already experienced and engaged in promoting international activity. We also bring our foreign office representatives into the state and introduce them to companies by traveling all around the state. Efren's a veteran of this. He's done it multiple times. Last June in 2023, you can see the list of locations where our folks met with companies. And you can see it's a very packed agenda. It's a lot of movement and a lot of logistics, but it is really a wonderful opportunity to meet our foreign office contractors face to face. We also led some trade missions in 2023, Israel and Canada, India and Mexico. So you can see Efren and myself there. We were in Mexico City and Querétaro and Monterrey. So we had a 3-city tour this year. And we do this about every other year where we will identify companies that have great market opportunity in Mexico and then travel with them, create a customized itinerary for them to meet with potential customers or importers. And then they get to see visit the facilities, meet them face to face, and ideally set up distribution agreements. Other activities that we had this year in 2024 and then again repeating in 2025 include events for the healthcare industry, include events with our partners at the U.S. Commercial Service Department of Commerce, and also additional trade missions that we're anticipating in 2025 and this fall as well in the Caribbean, Australia, Canada, and South America. So that is it for me. As you can see there, we have a website and a generic email and phone number that you're welcome to contact, or again, we'll be providing you with the specifics for your region. We're very excited to share some more information with you specifically about the Mexico market. As you know, what was the NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, is now USMCA. Efren will probably be talking a little bit about that. With some changes come new opportunities. So we're really excited. And once again, thank Mercedes and Efren for joining today to share this information with all of you.
Thank you, Catherine, for this very informative presentation. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our main speaker of the day, Efren Flores. He's the Director and Trade Representative for the state of New York. Efren is a highly qualified international business development consultant with experience assisting foreign companies in expanding into the Mexican market. With degrees from the California State University in Northridge and ITA SM in Monterrey, Mexico, Efren possesses a solid educational foundation and expertise in a range of industry sectors, including automotive, environmental, agricultural products and equipment, heavy machinery, telecommunications, civil and general security, medical, plastics, and chemicals. As the General Director of Global Business Partners Mexico SC, Efren he founded in 2006, Efren has worked with more than 1,700 U.S. companies from states such as Pennsylvania, Michigan, Kentucky, New York, Ohio, and Wisconsin, as well as European and Asian companies to establish business connections and growth their presence in Mexico. He's consulted with federal and state governments in Mexico and overseas, representing the World Trade Organization for the Ministry of Economy, serving as the EPEC Negotiation Board, and acting as a senior trade specialist for a recognized consulting firm. His skills in negotiation, international business development, business culture, international trade and investment, market strategy, strategic planning, international sales, and business management have earned him numerous accolades. With Efren's broad knowledge and extensive experience, foreign companies looking to enter the Mexican market can trust GBP Mexico as a reliable partner in their international business expansion. Please go ahead, Efren, with your presentation.
Thank you, Mercedes. Thank you, Catherine, Jenny. Thanks for all your help to putting all this thing together. Welcome. It is a pleasure to talk about Mexico to New York exporters. I have been traveling to New York, and I see a lot of potential. I see a lot of companies interested in Mexico. I'm trying to convince you to travel to Mexico. It is a nice country. You probably hear a lot of things about Mexico, good and bad. I hope it's more than good news than bad news. But I'm here to talk about how the Mexican market is developing, the opportunities for you, and let's start with this. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about the normal things about the economic situation in Mexico. I always point out the population. It's 132 million in the entire country, which means for the largest Spanish speaker in the world. And we have a 22 million people just in Mexico City, which it is almost 25% of the entire market of the country. And also it is nice to mention that Mexico has more than 14 free trade agreements. Of course, USMCA is the most important for us and also for Canada and US because we're interconnected. And I would love to talk about integration. It's not just trying to sell into Mexico, it's to integrate with the supply chain in Mexico. Now, we have seen a lot of changes after elections that we had in June 2nd. And we're going to talk about it pretty briefly, but the changes are in the exchange rate, inflation, and economic growth. The exchange rate has increased a little bit after elections. It was kind of strange to see a exchange rate of 16.5 pesos per dollar on Friday before election, and the Monday after elections, the exchange rate went on to 18 and something, and it has stayed there for the last month. Okay, which means it is good for everybody because it's not an expensive dollar for Mexican importers, but it's also a nice exchange rate for Mexican exporters. So I think that we're in a nice rate. We'll start there for there. And talking about the middle class, as you know, the middle class is the one who moves the economy in any country. So the middle class has grown considerably with the taste of trying new things, with new generations, focus on technology, focus on things to do things better, easier. And that's why there is a lot of movement and a lot of needs for equipment, for new technology regarding medical devices, packaging, processing, food processing equipment, all that kind of stuff. So, and another thing you need to know about the Mexican macroeconomics and macro situation is the youth population, where we have a 29 years old average, which means we're a pretty young country with things, and a lot of years to come with that particular age, compared to Asian countries, European countries that those unfortunately they're getting old. They're not much of a young population in those countries, but Mexico is a big difference. And also because of USMCA integration, we see a lot of things going on, especially in certain sectors that I'm going to talk about later on. So let's continue with this. As I mentioned, we have a new president, the first female president in the history of Mexico. Claudia Sheinbaum, she belongs to the same political party as Andres Manuel López Obrador, our current president. She will take over in October 1st. Okay. And we see a lot of changes. She's more moderate than our current president. She has announced different infrastructure programs, projects, new things are coming up regarding the integrations of the free trade agreements. Of course, we're just waiting for U.S. elections and Canadian elections to see how we can start negotiating with the two countries. Of course, it's a matter of negotiating and to have the continuity of the USMCA. On the personal view, it's really hard to cancel the USMCA because the integration and interaction of companies and businesses within the three countries is just amazing. But going back to talking about Claudia Sheinbaum, uh, uh, like I said, she has announced a lot of things going on. She was a former um, mayor of Mexico City. She has been in politics in different positions, and she's a doctor on sustainability and an engineer for different sustainability and environmental concerns. So we see a good thing. We see a good future for the next 6 years, and also I have to mention she has the entire power of the Congress. You know, her political party has the majority, so she will be able to do constitutional reforms and also to launch new laws. You know, but we'll see how that goes, and based on what uh, uh, analysts and media says, we will see how the government will be within her first 3 months in power. So, but personally, and what I have heard and read, you know, it's we see a good future. Okay, so let's wish them the best, and we will probably talk about it later on in the year and 2 years after. Okay, so now, as I mentioned, you know, Mexico is a pretty trading ally to the United States. Mexico is the number one trading partner of the U.S. It's not China anymore, not Canada anymore. Mexico is the one trading partner. That means we're North America's a manufacturing powerhouse. As I mentioned, the interaction of businesses and the integration of components going back and forth, borders. It's just amazing. Just to give an example, automotive parts crosses the border 7, 8 times. So to interact and integrate with the final product. Okay, so it's really hard to um, to forget about USMCA, you know, and when NAFTA was signed back in 1994, uh, you know, we have a lot of things. It was very promising, and I think it reaches its objective of making more and more um, easy and to help exporters on the three countries, and also to promote small medium-sized companies, which is the main focus of this kind of a free trade agreement. Back in 2000, of course, we got the some kind of negotiations, and then back to 2018 when they're trying to renegotiate now what it means USMCA, which it was a nice negotiation. I think um, it was an update of including different chapters, you know, changing different chapters, especially on e-commerce, the auto industry, the environmental reforms, and so on. So I think it was a kind of a new free trade agreement, which is not now is going to help a lot of small medium-sized companies, and also to promote FDI. As you know, nearshoring has been in the market for probably a couple of years after the trade war between the U.S. and China. Now more companies that were in China trying to move your places to United States, Mexico, and Canada because they have to. They're focused in the U.S. market, and it is a time to connect with those companies now. Of course, we also, in the case of Mexico, we're getting a lot of Chinese companies that are trying uh, to produce products and of course going and thinking about the US. Okay, so nearshoring is there. It's not just Asian. We see a lot also. We see a lot of European companies in establishing operations in the three countries, not just Mexico because of cheap labor, because well, matter of fact, not cheap anymore, or any other economic benefits. It's also happening in the United States. Okay, so especially for technological companies, well-skilled manufacturing capabilities and so on. But nearshoring is a thing that is I will talk about it a little bit in certain in specific in sectors. But going back, USMCA is playing a big role. You need to consider this as a tool. Of course, if your product is US made or at least 51% of it will apply for the USMCA free trade agreement. And if you have some kind of a medical device or any product that might require certain certification in the US and you want to export it to Mexico, of course, that certifications will be easier to get if you have the proper documentation or certification in the US. So now we're going to talk about supporting your New York businesses, the vital trade relationship. As I mentioned, it's mainly for the USMCA is helping the U.S. Small and medium-sized companies to interact with the supply chain. Of course, that will bring a lot of economic relationship as we have helped a lot of our New York companies to enter the Mexican market, especially find distributors, representatives, and so on. And that's where all the trade relationship starts. Of course, you need to give them support. We're going to talk about it a little bit later on, but also you need to know what's going on in the environment of the future market you're trying to enter. It's not just Mexico, but if you're thinking about exporting, you need to do your homework to learn about it, what kind of business culture that particular country has, and so on. Now, we're going to talk about sectors. Like I mentioned, agribusiness, machinery, equipment. It's a very neat in Mexico because we export a lot of those things. We're number one of avocado exporter, green leaves. Broccolis, lettuce, all kind of those kind of produce are in big need in different countries, not just the United States. So we need equipment, the technologies, auto parts and supplies. Of course, is one of the main sectors in the country. The automobile and automotive. I will say, we have a lot of OEMs with plants in the country. More are coming, especially from China, France, Korea. So the market is pretty strong. You need to interact with them. You need to have some kind of auto background so that you can be considered in the Mexican market. They're pretty friendly. They're pretty looking for new options. Of course, if they have a project, they're anxious to meet you, and so on. Environmental technology, especially in water, as you know, we have some kind of issues with water, especially for water treatment. We have the water treatment plants, but there's no spare parts, new technologies, and of course, we have a scarcity of water. It's not, and we are suffering of that. So we need solutions. It's not just the simple solution of filtering or inverse osmosis. We need some more sophisticated technology especially for municipality, industrial, water treatment. Health and medical equipment. Medical equipment was assembled in Mexico. What I mean was is now, more and more medical equipment manufacturers are are looking for new suppliers. The decision makers are in Mexico. So for medical devices, but also we buy a lot of medical devices because government has launched different programs to renew and update their equipment, and private entities and private medical groups are now looking for new equipment because the medical tourism is pretty big in Mexico. Okay, so they're now looking for new solutions. Also, in the case of having control of every medical record, digitalizing or any uh, database software that you might think of helping hospitals or clinics to keep better control of their medical records. So, food and beverage, I will say, is the second or the third main sector in the country. We produce a lot of products and beverages, and of course, we need process equipment and packaging. Okay, so, if you are in the down market, we need to talk to Mercedes and Catherine and myself, so we can start helping you in that matter. Building materials and construction, of course, as I mentioned, there's a lot of infrastructure projects coming up in the future. Of course, private construction is also in demand, especially for a smart building, lightweight construction, and anything that you might think is. I had the chance to one time to talk to a lumber company. Is not an option, but if you have something else, great. Valves and especially pumps, it is also we have seen a lot of demand for those. Telecom and equipment, it is we have seen in the central part of Mexico. There are new data centers and are being built. Of course, they need the latest equipment. It's not just the fiber optic cable. It's more than that. So equipment on that's a big need for the private sector in telecommunication. Of course, we have one of the biggest telecom companies in the world, Telmex and America Mobile, which is owned by one of the richest guys in the world, and they're investing a lot of money every year. Security and safety equipment, unfortunately, we have a need of that. We don't need the firearms and all that, but it's more into the safety equipment, CCTVs, biometrics, uh, the entry controls, and so on. So uh, every year we have a trade show. It's called a security show in Mexico. So if you're interested, we can help you also to be at the show and to have a B2B business with possible distributors and end users. Tools and dies. It is a combination of equipment and new prototyping and so on. Especially in the kind of tools and dies for molds, plastic injection molding, stamping, and matter of fact, stamping. We have a big gap. We don't have we don't have the enough companies in Mexico to produce the stamping, and of course, we don't have enough companies to produce the dies and the tools for those. So every time there are companies that require that kind of stuff, they look into the United States or Europe, especially for in the case of plastic injection molding. The first source is Italy. Second one is the United States, and third is China, depending on the price. So uh, high quality tools and dies is needed on those three sectors. Metal stamping, as I mentioned, it is a big need. There are not enough companies that can produce stamping in the country. and also assemble stamping parts, in 4 different sectors, especially the automotive, a little bit of aerospace on that, but electrical devices, electronic devices, or the it is a big need. Quality control equipment, of course, with a new technology for automation parts and automated equipment to produce new products and very sophisticated parts. Of course, quality control equipment is a big need. And the service, calibrate. It's a good market. Aerospace, the second or the third most amazing sector in the country, which has grown considerably for the last 20 years. We started with 10 companies at the beginning with the pioneer Bombardier, who was trying to build an entire plane in Mexico, but other companies follow like Airbus, Safran, Honeywell. All those kind of companies are all spread out in the entire country. Of course, Querétaro is one of the hubs, and on the north part of Mexico, in Tijuana, Mexicali, they're pretty big in aerospace, and they launch every year their needs. Of course, the most important thing, if you're thinking of supplying aerospace in Mexico, is to have the entire certifications, for certain products. Services are a totally different story. Although also they require service providers, like the equipment calibrators and so on, you name it. But for components, it's a big need. Unfortunately, I don't have the numbers now, but I promise to send it to Catherine and to Mercedes so you can see what they need and numbers they launch every year. Packaging equipment, as I mentioned, for the food and beverage, it's a big need. Uh, Thinking in an environmental view, thinking about the most economic way of packaging a product, and of course, following what the Mexican requirements uh, for packaging. Now we have to put different labels to have certain sizes and so on. So packaging equipment, it is a must. And also just to give you an example, we were trying to get a space on Expo Pack Mexico, for another client, and when we talked, when we to the organizer, and they mentioned the trade show is sold out for the next 2 years. So that gives you an idea how the sector, how big the sector is. Electrical components, we need electrical components. We're struggling with the energy generation, but that doesn't mean that we need electrical components. Especially Siemens is one of the main players, and they require a lot of. And they have been building different parts in Mexico for the last 30, 40 years. Plastic materials and resins, of course, we need the latest resins, very strong, very easy to use, good looking stuff. So it is, and that comes with chemicals, as Mexico is one of the main chemicals importers for specialized engineered resins, plastic materials, of course, for uh, mainly for production of packaging things, for packaging for products. Prototyping, especially in we see that in automotive, aerospace, medical devices, and new products that can be launched for electronics. So prototyping or in the service or providing the service of prototyping, it's a good option for New York companies. And now we're going to talk about the Mexico key sectors. Most of the sectors or opportunities they have mentioned, they interact with the same thing. The only big difference here is textiles and mining. Okay, we see a lot of potential in mining for equipment. We have been approached by the Zacatecas state, is one of the main mining states in the country, and they asked us to start trying to find more equipment for many special, and also for security to secure miners in on the field. Textiles one it was one of the sectors that were dead in Mexico. Now everything has changed. As you know, Mexico is one of the main exporters of production of denim in the world. So everything has changed. More and more companies have been looking into Mexico to produce textiles or to have a special process on the clothing or any garment thing. Electronics, as we have our special Silicon Valley in the city of Guadalajara, which has grown considerably for the past 30, 40 years, and is very recognized now for research and development. And it's one of the main hubs in the world for animation. It was kind of amazing to see an operations in Guadalajara. When I went there, there were 80 guys with a big computer with the headsets on and doing the animation for Nickelodeon and Pixar. It was nice to see that. It's until you see it, you realize how big they are and how they creative they are. So it's, electronics and animation in Mexico has gone considerable. So now we're gonna learn about the mistakes. Every time I help a company new to the market, we tell them what to do, of course, and what to follow and try to guide them. Okay, first of all, I ask them to do some homework, to learn about the market, about Mexico, to know about the culture. The culture's it's a big deal. If you don't know the culture of how to do business in Mexico, it's gonna be hard. First of all, it's not the same what you do in the United States. The Mexicans would love to know you better, to know you what's going on, and then they will start doing some business with you. Logistics. Every time or I would say the most common practice for logistics is or shipping products from New York to Mexico is through Laredo, Texas, by truck, and you need to know your prices. Deliver all the way to Laredo, Texas, and also mistake is insufficient local support. You need to find a reliable distributor or partner representative and give them the entire support. If you have something or an equipment or product that requires some kind of intellectual protection, think about it. Okay, patents are pretty important in Mexico. When I mean poor communication and coordination is when you don't have any communication with your clients and so on. So you need to maintain that, support your partner. It's not just because I sign a distributor in Mexico, that doesn't mean that he will do it by his own or her own. You need him to support on marketing material, how to sell it, and so they can be successful. And what I mean, if the Mexican company is very successful with your products, they will be really, really, really loyal to you. Okay, if you help a Mexican to grow their business, they will be really loyal. So, also to know about regulations. Regulations are pretty important, and if you don't know them, you will be in big trouble, or your product will be stuck in customs. So you need to know what's going on, and harmonized code will play a big role on that. And SBDC or Catherine can help you to identify some kind of relation based on your harmonized code. Okay. Incorrect pricing strategy. Like I mentioned, consider your shipping costs all the way to Laredo, Texas, and also to prepare kind of a business plan to give them some kind of idea of your future partner, what is going to be the tentative price to sell your product, the distribution price, and the markups. Okay. And going back to the research on buyers, okay, we have heard a lot of horror stories of companies signing the distributors and representative with people that they just met in the plane, you know. So, or someone who met at the vacations in Cancun and so on. And believe me, that really happened. Now we're gonna uh, going to the steps to enter the Mexican market. Number one, do your research about the market, and we can help you on that. Okay, we can give you some insights about how the market is. Identify the target customers. We also provide that, especially to pre-qualify a specific distributor rep. We first of all we need to see that particular partners interested in your products. They have the capability and experience, financial, and the coverage, geographical coverage, and of course, if they're in that particular sector that you're looking for. Regulations. If you have some doubts about certifications, if you're in the medical field and you need to be certified in Mexico with COFEPRIS, but if you have an FDA approval, a 510K, that will help you to get certification in Mexico. Local support, as I mentioned, to see who will be your distributor. We can help you to run a background check if you want. Pricing the payments. When I mean payments, uh, if you are assigned a distributor or a rep, I will say distributor. Try for the first time, and you'll get an order. Okay, so try to get your payment upfront for the first time and start building that relationship, and then you can um, start extending terms and so on. But be more aggressive on the first time, or at least to get 50-50. It depends of what you're getting. When you're getting some kind of a business with big companies, uh, and terms are needed, don't be afraid of that. Okay, so uh, and it's very important to get in touch with local lawyers if you want to sign an agreement, because if you want to enforce it, that particular agreement, you will need to have them in Spanish and English, and also under Mexican law. So that's very important thing to know. Customs and the communication, of course. If you have a US made product, you must have a certificate of origin that proves that. That will help to clear custom easily, and including the logistics and shipping. And we can also help you to identify which is going to be the best method to ship your products into Mexico. But like I said, 98% of the product that comes from New York goes through Laredo, Texas. Now, I think we are running short in time, but we're going to talk about just cultural differences. Very easy. It's Mexicans are pretty loyal, very looking into and doing business with Americans. We know you pretty well, but you need to learn about us too. Okay, we want to have friends first, and then we're going to start doing business. So those guys will start asking you too many things, about your products, about your family, what you do, even what kind of car you drive. If you had the chance to experience snow in the United States, they will laugh at you, but they want to know you, okay? And you also need to use that in on your benefit, okay? So you can break the ice talking about baseball, American football, and so on, and then talk about business. If they invite you for a dinner or lunch, go ahead. If they ask you for a shot of the Mexican holy water, go ahead and get it. And so that means, and for the Mexican, that you're very serious and open to do some business with them. Okay. Communication styles are totally different. You know, we get pretty close, you know, to each other. We're pretty touchy too. So eh, some people don't like that, especially Asians don't like that, but that's how the culture is. Okay. So you need to understand the culture and do whatever you have to do in Mexico, trying to understand, learn, and you know, try to learn about it, read about it. There are a lot of articles out there that you can see and learn how the Mexicans react. And one more thing, Mexicans will never say no. They don't want to hurt your feelings. Okay. Things have changed, especially in the north part of Mexico. They're pretty straightforward, but they don't like to say no. And these are the service that we can provide in the office without any charge. You know, we can help you with the market research. We give you some counseling of how to export to Mexico, uh, to identify a special entry strategy, help you with the price. If we see a kind of a trade lead or any thing that's happening in the market, we help you with the monitoring of that. But the most specific and more reliable thing is to identify your future partner or client. As I mentioned, we do a lot of a pre-qualification and to find the right partner for you. Okay. So, and of course, the B2B combined with the rep search or distributor search. If you have some issue with customs and legal advice, of course, we can help you on that one. Translation, that's I think is the most easier service that we provide. Trade show support. If you're thinking in participating in a trade show in Mexico, we're here. We can be with you. We can help you to interact with the Mexican, to talk to them, and also to facilitate B2B meetings during the show or outside of the show. Certifications, uh, also, it's pretty, you need support on that. You know how to apply for those, what kind of requirements you need, and so on. And in the case of design marketing material, it's very important to mention that we help companies to proofread their websites and manuals, because sometimes they're being translated in the United States with different kind of Spanish. When I mean Spanish, I don't know. I don't have nothing against other my Spanish speaker colleagues and people, but Puerto Rican, Argentinian, Venezuelan Spanish might be a little bit different of Mexican Spanish, especially for some words, but words that can cause different problem. So what you think, you might think, or you might ask yourself, hey, what's next? Well, if you want to get in touch with me and to have the benefit of this kind of services, you can talk to Mercedes or Catherine, and they will start helping you to submit an EMAS or EMAS Plus. It also help you with the step plan or any advice that you might need. So just to give you an idea, it's free of charge. You have people in New York, you have a person in Mexico who can help you, and also the financial support. So there's no justification not to think about Mexico and to explore the possibilities. And here's my contact information. I'm based in Querétaro. It's like a 2.5-hour drive heading north from Mexico City. I'm close as an email or a phone call. So I encourage you to think about Mexico. You have an extension of your international office here. Please use us. And we're more than happy to talk to you and in the future see you in Mexico. Thanks so much. And I look forward to hear about your questions or to answer all your questions. Thank you.
All right. So if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A box or the chat. We have a little bit of time here to go over any questions that you might have. And Mercedes, I'm working on your video situation. Mercedes is here. We're having a an issue with the video. So she is available for answering questions as well. We'll give people just a minute. And Efren, thank you so much for so much information on trade with Mexico. Fantastic information for businesses interested that are looking at Mexico as a potential place to be exporting. Okay, so our first question. This person sent some laser cut fabric pieces to a sample maker who moved back to Mexico. They were insured and used FedEx as a broker. They paid a duty, but then there was a charge that was wanted from the sample maker as an import fee. So this person would like to know, where did I go wrong?
Okay, let me answer that question pretty easily. Fabrics, textile, they require some kind of a permit. Okay, so if your importer doesn't have a permit, I mean, they will charge you, but you will never get your product out. And probably they will ask you to send it. My suggestion, do not send that by FedEx, DHL, UPS if you know that your importer doesn't have that kind of special permit. For example, steel, textile, toys, shoes, and there's another one that requires certain permits. Okay, so that's why they charge you that amount of money. Okay, and especially those kind of carriers. To tell you, they're not very specialized for Mexican permits. So I encourage you, if you're planning to send another sample, I can give you a name of a forwarder in Laredo, Texas, who can help you with it. Okay, I don't know if you really got your product back or after that kind of a payment, it got into your client's hands, but it was a lot of money, to be honest with you. Number two, do you have an idea of the trend of the exchange rate they pay? Well, as I mentioned, and probably you can see on the back, I'm always reading my exchange rate every day. Um, what I have seen in the forecast and hearing about a lot of guys that are into this, it will stay between 18 and 19 pesos per dollar for the next 6-7 months. Okay, so we will see how they react to exchange rate after September 1st when the new government comes in. And no, September 1st, no. Well, yeah, it's September 1st because we have a new Congress. And AMLO has one more month to pass different laws and hopefully it's not thinking about constitutional reforms. That might affect the exchange rate. Number two is November when you have elections. So that's another one that we have to look at. So, but what I have heard and read, it's between 18 to 19 pesos per dollar. It's really hard. It is difficult to see a 21, 22 pesos per dollar in the future. You know, it's not gonna.
Efren, is there some contractual or other method that people use to sort of hedge their bets on that if there's currency volatility?
Not really, Catherine. It's just it was kind of after different aspects of the because we follow a lot the American economy, and because of the supply and demand of a dollar and Mexican peso, we follow what the Fed does regarding the exchange, the interest rates in the United States. It's a big thing. And that's where you see a lot of changes and elections. And pretty clear example what we suffered, and now we're gonna see what's gonna happen in. And even when we got in the news when Biden said it's not running, boom, that's another one. So very simple political situations in the U.S. and Mexico may affect the exchange rate. But later on, we see a lot of investments, money come in. So that's where the exchange rate goes down. And that's what happened probably 6 months ago of the nearshoring. There was a lot of investment coming in into Mexico, of course. There were a lot of dollars coming in.
Thank you, Efren. One last question that we have, and I know Mercedes recommended that this person contact her, but just for the sake of recording on our webinar today, we have someone who is interested in issues with exporting food from New York to Mexico. And if you want to just give, a brief overview of some tips, things to watch for with that. And then we would love to have that person get in touch with Dr. Sanchez more for some further specifics.
I would love to know what means food. That's very important to know. If it's a package or is fresh or is, that makes a big difference. If it's packaged, label is a must. You don't need to have it in the Spanish, and then especially for the nutritional facts. Mexico has a special label for that. You need to have the name of the importer and name of the exporter, where it's coming from, and also in Mexico has a new package for saying if there's a excess of sugar, excess of fat, excess of sodium, and so on. And of course, you need to do some of the testing so they can see which one applies. So if it's a fresh food, of course, there are different requirements, phytosanitary and phytosanitary process for that. So it depends on what kind of food product we're talking about. Okay. And if it's, of course, packaged, if you want to go retail or you want to do food service, that's a totally different story. So I think we need to know what a food product that this company is trying to export to Mexico first.
There are some markets where certain ingredients are banned that are allowable in the United States. Mexico is not one of those markets in terms of having, a more restrictive environment. So that's one thing you don't have to worry about. A lot of companies actually find that Mexico and Canada is one of their first markets for exporting, particularly if they're selling into any of the larger chains like a Costco or a Walmart, something like that. Because then, once the domestic distribution is sort of established and doing well, then those companies will then request that the company, supplier company, looks at Mexico, and they'll assist with that as well. So it's very, very common to have Mexico be one of your first export markets for the food and beverage sector. It's very, very, very common. There are some details you have to pay attention to, but it's not particularly onerous as it can be for some other markets.
Yes,
And just to add, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
I was
Mercedes.
going to say that the Foreign Agricultural Service has quite a bit of information by country. So that's where I wanted to send this person. But again, as a friend said, we need to know what type of product it is because there are different regulations for different products. So.
Yeah, I just want to add regarding the retail, you must, if you want to go to retail with a big supermarket chains in Mexico, including Walmart, they will ask you to prepare a business proposal, which means to have a price delivered to Laredo, Texas, markup, suggested price for retail, and they will also ask you for sampling. And they will have, if they're very interested in a very nice product, they will have your product in shelf for months, 3 months. And so they can also measure the movement of the product. Okay, so just consider that if you're in the retail price. The best thing or the best practice is to find an importer or a distributor, which will take that, will take care of that, and also to deal with the buyers in different supermarket chains. They know how to deal with them. It's easier.
Thank you. We had one last question come in as you were answering that one. So just very quickly, do the certifications that a small business may have in the US, such as service disabled veteran, mean anything in Mexico? Okay. The
Fortunately,
answer
no.
is no.
Not unfortunately, no. We don't have, we don't follow those kind of certifications. No. And it's not the first time they ask me about that particular things. Yeah. No.
All right. Well, we will wrap up for today then. Thank you so much for staying on a little bit longer to answer questions, all three of our presenters today. And so I do want to remind everyone that there is an evaluation. If you have a few moments to give us some feedback on today's webinar, we love hearing from our attendees and knowing what you found valuable and what else you would like to learn about from the NYSBDC. And so I will just give Mercedes a moment here to wrap things up.
Yes, thank you so much, Jenny. I wanted to encourage everyone to contact us. I will act as a bridge between Catherine and a friend with any questions and concerns and help you expand into Mexico. And to let you know, I'm so sorry. We will have our next webinar August 14 on export compliance. So just watch for the email that will come after that. And I really appreciate Canto with the assistance and the presentation of a friend. Thank you so much. I know it's been
My pleasure, Mercedes.
I know with
As always.
my best friend and partner, Miss Van Berger. I always appreciate that she gave us a hand and she's always there for us as well. So thank you so much for the two of you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, many thanks coming in, and thank you to all of our attendees for being here and being a part of our webinar today. Have a lovely rest of your day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Adios. Bye-bye.
Adios.